like the Cabbage Patch doll that was not available and they got in fights. That'll occur. But that's not rebellion. That's panic. Panic will occur. That might create blood in the streets. There are 450 million guns in America. There are 40 million ex-military living now that have been in combat. There are a handful of us, well, I should say more than a handful of us, that have actually experienced revolutions in foreign countries. We know what's coming. Number 3, we can talk a lot more about all this, but I got to go on. I'm only to number 3. The dollar will devalue to 1/3 its current value, and the rest of the world is going to have trouble also. Some more. Many, many will have more. Maybe a handful will have less. And let me give you the handful that will have less. Canada, Germany, Switzerland. The list might be bigger, but that's it. And I'm not predicting past 2010, but if I were, I would say that in 2 years, the euro and the European Union will collapse. There will not be a euro. The dollar, however, by next fall will probably fall to 1/3 its current value. The dollar since March has already dropped in value by 19%. 2,000 banks will close in 2010. Well, hopefully it's not one of yours. Housing will collapse completely. It's gone up a little, but it's going to crash. The Federal Reserve will raise their housing rates to about 6%. That'll put a halt to the housing crisis. Folks, let me tell you, there's people like Ken Fisher of Fisher Investments from Forbes magazine that is advising, oh, you need to get into the stock market. Well, of course you do, because that's how he makes money. He doesn't make money by getting you gold and silver, folks. Let me tell you what else. Ken Fisher missed the big one last year. Yeah, he didn't see it coming. He'll admit it. You want to depend on somebody like that with your minimum investment? You should see what Ken Fisher requires you to have to be a client of his. If you're a client and you're listening to this, you need to go to gold and silver, and if Ken Fisher won't help you, you need to go to somebody that will. America has been deliberately financially coerced and is going to financially have a crisis by design. It's intentional. So where are they pushing the sheep? Well, the sheep are being herded into the corral, folks. And the collapse will be part of the tool that pushes the people and the sheeple the direction that they want. In other words, do you want another economic World Bank led by the same people that supposedly failed to manage your money? They didn't fail to manage your money. They deliberately caused your money problem. There's a big difference. Being incompetent is not their problem. It's worse. It was intentional because they want to garner more. Who are these people? Why do they do this? I'm going to digress before I get to 4. And I'm going to tell you the story about the king. One time the king had a bunch of land, and one of his subjects came up to him and wanted to build a house, and he'd been doing good. So there was this dirt road intersection up on the way to, of course, his castle. And he was out in the farmlands, and at this one location, this peasant asked permission to build a house. So the king said, sure. And so he said, great. So he goes to build a house on the northwest corner of an intersection. It gets all built, and the king comes through on his coach and stops and gets out, and he said, I didn't give you permission to build here. I gave you permission to build on the northeast corner. Well, that man knew better than to argue. He also knew that the king was wrong. He didn't say anything, and so he went to the northeast corner and he built a house again. As the king came back by, he saw he was building on that northwest east corner after he'd built on the northwest. And he said, I didn't give you permission to build on the northeast corner. He said, well, you came by and I built on the northwest and you told me to move to the northeast. He says, no. I wanted you to build on the southeast corner. So he gave him a little, they talked about it, and he, okay. So the king goes on to his castle. The third time, the peasant farmer builds his house, and by that time, his house was just one small room with a little outhouse because he'd used all he had to build these other two. So by this time, it was a mess, and the king wouldn't let him have anything from the others. Finally, the king said, let's go out, sheriff, and let's talk to that guy. I think he's a problem. So the king goes out and he sees the peasant building on that southeast corner. And he goes up to him and he says, I did not give you permission to build there. And the peasant says, I've built on the northwest corner, king. I've built on the northeast corner. I've built on the southeast corner. Now you're telling me it was the southwest part of the intersection? I've had it. You know what happens? The king goes, that's more like it, and he rubs his hands together. He says, now we have some fun. See, these people are just like the king. They presume they have authority over anybody. And when you try to do what you have worked your blood, sweat, and tears with what you thought was supposed to be right and should be, you've been lied to. But this kind of creature that is controlling all of this agenda has an insatiable desire to control. They want to provoke you into a fight. You know why? Because they are wicked. They are psychopathic killers. This feeds their need. And what the people actually don't understand is that they never are satisfied with the sacrifice. They will never be satisfied even with the death of that peasant. They will need more blood. And then people that talk to me say, see, they just want you to get into a fight. Folks, there's a poem by Rudyard Kipling talking about the Anglo-Saxons pushed to the hilt. He is fairly easy to get along with, but there just comes a time when you're trying to suffocate a man that you just better watch out. And that's what's happened in America. Men have tried to avoid the bully on the playground. They went to another corner to play, and the bully came over and caused trouble. They went to another corner to play, they caused trouble. They went to the teacher, golly, was the mother.